Thank you. This meeting of the Starkville Board of Aldermen will now come to order. Please rise for the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance, after which Alderman Vaughn would like to open us in a word of prayer, and we will observe a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father and our God, the God of the universe, the God that made the heaven and earth and the fullness thereof. Father God, in the name of Jesus, again, there's a few of your handmaid servants. We come before you again, Father God, to be able to handle these affairs of the city. We pray that you will bless the mayor of the board. Lord God, that our decision will fill your heart with joy. We thank you so much. We ask you to forgive us of all our sins, Father God. We thank you for making us. You made us your image and your likeness. You made us just a little bit lower than the angels. We thank you so much. We pray, God, in the name of Jesus, that every decision that we make, it will benefit you. Every decision that we make, it will benefit the citizen of Starkville. We thank you for putting us in this position to be able to make good, wise, sound decisions the way you allow Solomon to make those decisions. We thank you so much. We love you. We need you. There's nothing we can do without you. We ask you that you will fill this place with your spirit, and that your spirit will dwell, and your love will dwell in our heart and our decision making. And at the end of the night, we will give you all the honor, the praise, and glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen.
All right, just a housekeeping note, since we do have a large crowd here tonight, if you have devices, electronic devices, they are permitted in board meetings, but they must be either powered down or placed on silent. So please, to avoid disruptions in the meeting, make sure your device is either powered down or placed on silent. At this time, board has the written agenda. Are there any proposed changes to the agenda? Alderman Maynard.
Mayor, under Board Business 10, I'd like to add an item D. It's at the table here. Add discussion and consideration of a warning siren maintenance contract.
All right, the proposed revision from Alderman Maynard is to add an item D under Roman numeral 10, board business. That item would be the discussion and consideration of a 3-year siren maintenance quote from Precision Communication. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, it is.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Alderman Carter.
Is there a not to exceed amount, or I don't have any information?
It is $14,973,000 for the first year, $9,338 for the second year, and $9,338 for the third year. But now I do believe Alderman Maynard is not putting that item on the consent agenda, so I would anticipate discussion at that time.
Okay.
Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, Alderman Maynard, do you have further proposed revisions?
Yes, sir. And the same Board Business 10, item E. Approval of change order number 1 and change order number 2 for Brisland Incorporated contract, which is constructing water, wastewater, and storm drainage for the mill at MSU project.
And this is for the regular agenda as well?
Yes.
All right, proposed revision by Alderman Maynard is to place an item E under Roman numeral 10, board business, which is the discussion of the approval of change order number 1 and change order number 2 for Brisland Inc.'s contract, which is constructing water, wastewater, and storm drainage for the mill at MSU project. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
That is, and I'd like to place that on consent.
All right, Alderman Maynard's proposed revision is to place that on the consent agenda for this evening. Alderman Maynard, is that your intent?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear any objection? Alderman Walker.
No objection, just a clarification. So what is this change order, since that's at the table? Looking at that, does that change the bottom line in any way, or are we keeping the same price?
Same.
Yeah, and Alderman, if you don't mind, I'll speak to it. This is the contractor, while doing the work, found a means of expediting the work. This is no new cost to the city, but does bring the completion date for this construction forward considerably. This has sort of come through quickly, and we appreciate the board considering it tonight.
Thank you. Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter's been added to the consent agenda. Alderman Maynard, do you have further proposed revisions? Any further proposed revisions from the members of the board? Do we have any further proposed revisions from the members of the board? Any further proposed revisions? Alderman Little.
Under 11B2D under planning, should that be on consent if we got a public hearing on it?
I would ask for comments prior to the consent agenda being approved. Are there any further proposed changes to the agenda? Any further proposed changes? All right, seeing no further proposed changes, what Alderman Little was just referring to is we have a development matter that is on the agenda. It is a request for a lot subdivision, which has required notice and a public hearing. That is a request for approval of one lot subdivision by Mr. Freddie Millens Jr. Since that item requires a public hearing, I'm going to ask for comments now.
Have you recognized?
Alderman Perkins.
Mr. Sanders, will you come down for a few minutes, please?
Yes, sir.
Just want to establish a few comments for the record. Am I correct that the property that is seeking approval here is a 1.21 acre tract that Mr. Millens acquired from his sister?
That is correct.
Okay, let me develop this. Okay, and also he's seeking to get this done so he can just build, I guess, if I may say, just a traditional home on the lot, and he's not seeking a mobile home. Is that my understanding?
That is correct. It is an R1 zone, and Mr. Millens has expressed to staff that he desires to build a single-family detached home.
Right, and it has been clearly explained to him. Mr. Millens may be here if he is holding hand up. Mr. Millens, you here somewhere? But if he's not, but it's been clearly explained to him that, and he acknowledges and agrees that he's not trying to put a mobile home on this property. He understands. He just want to get it done, so approved, so he can build him a traditional, residential home. Is that your understanding?
Yes, that is correct. He has expressed to me and my staff that he desires to build a single-family home.
And this acreage is located on Treasure Lane, which is in Ward 6, as we approach Rock Hill Road going north almost to Butler on the maybe the southeast corner of that road.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
And this is the area that came into the city during the 1998 annexation.
That is also correct, yes, sir.
And the sole purpose for this being on the agenda is for him to be able to build that residential home, because otherwise, without this approval, he could not build that home.
That is also correct.
Yes, sir. Yield, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, the reason that I'm asking for comments at this time is the board is about to approve its consent agenda. When it approves its consent agenda, if this matter remains on the consent agenda, it will be approved. So this is your time, if anybody would like to make comments on that matter. Is there anyone wishing to comment on the subdivision for Mr. Freddie Millens Jr.? Is there anyone wishing to make a comment at this time? Anyone wishing to make a comment? Seeing no one, the public hearing requirement is satisfied. Does that meet your approval? All right, and a motion to approve the agenda as revised is in order.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Little to approve the agenda as revised. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. You now have before you the approval of the consent agenda. Is there any objection to the approval of the consent agenda as revised? Any objection? Any objection?
I don't have an objection. I got a question. Under that $25,000 grant, is that for the bags, or could that be applied toward waste containers if we went to decide to
As a
go
matter of
that
fact, DEQ has indicated to us that they are not going to fund bags anymore. So if it funds anything, in all likelihood, it will have to fund the required equipment on the trucks for tippers and tippers for recycling. Yeah. And that's outside of the garbage context. This would be for recycling only.
Thank you.
Ms. Gandy, did I misspeak on that?
There's no rezoning in the middle of the situation.
No, it was a subdivision, but it had special conditions that required trouble. All right, is there any objection to the consent agenda? Any objection, any objection, any objection? Seeing none, the consent agenda as revised has been approved. The next matter you have before you is announcements and comments by the mayor and the members of the board. I have one comment that is not listed on the agenda tonight that I'd like to make. Is Herman Peters here? Mr. Peters? Could you please stand? I would like to recognize Mr. Peters for having recently attained the distinction as the city, by Mr. Peters' efforts, has attained the distinction of as a Playful City USA. This is actually our 4th consecutive year to attain the distinction of Playful City USA. It is the foremost organization in the country that recognizes quality play spaces. It is one of those designations that we chase as a community that is a barometer that shows we're a community that takes seriously the task of having quality play spaces. Mr. Peters has worked hard not only ensuring such play spaces exist, but also this year did the legwork on the application entirely himself. Mr. Peters, job well done, and congratulations to all of you on being a part of a Playful City USA. All right, I'd now like to introduce our newest employees. And I'm going to deviate from the order just a little bit that's in your agenda because we're going to do something we haven't done before, and that is we're actually going to swear our firefighters in at the meeting tonight. Typically, a swearing ceremony is held outside of the meeting, but at the request of Chief Yarborough, we're going to hold that ceremony here tonight. And I think that provides a wonderful opportunity for the public to observe a moment that's very special to the newest members of our firefighting team. So I'm going to first introduce all of our non-firefighter new employees, and then I'm going to introduce our new firefighters before swearing them in. At this time, I'd like to introduce our the newest operator in the landscape division, Alec Lucius. Alec is originally is from Starkville and graduated from East Oktibbeha County High School. He attended East Mississippi Community College. Alec previously worked at Perry Marketplace, located on the MSU campus, before joining the city of Starkville. He is the son of Aaron Lucius and Laura Robertson. He is a proud father of 3 children, daughters Taylor and Tyler, and son Jacob. Alec enjoys playing basketball, riding his horses, lady girl, and old man, and being a father to his children. Alec and his family attend 16th Section Church. Please join me in welcoming Alec. I'd now like to introduce Chad Rice, our newest laborer in the Sanitation and Environmental Services Department. Chad is originally from Starkville and is a graduate of Starkville High School. He attended East Mississippi Community College. Previously, Chad worked for Lowe's in their lawn and garden department. Chad is the son of Diane and Elbert Rice. In his spare time, he enjoys football, basketball, and writing poetry. Chad attends Ebenezer Baptist Church and Peters Rock Temple Church of God in Christ. Please join me in welcoming Chad Rice. I'd now like to introduce Dennis Weir. Dennis is also a new laborer in the Sanitation and Environmental Services Department. Dennis is from Starkville and is a graduate of Starkville High School. He also attended East Mississippi Community College. Before joining the city of Starkville, Dennis worked for Main Street Forest Production. Dennis is the son of Pamela Hart and Terrence Ware. He enjoys working on plants and he enjoys working and plans on getting his college degree. Dennis attends Peters Rock Temple Church of God in Christ. Please join me in welcoming Dennis. And we have one new police officer to introduce this evening, Mr. Caden Adams. The Starkville Police Department would like to introduce Caden Adams as one of our new police officers. Caden is originally from Columbus, Mississippi, and is a graduate of Victory Christian Academy. He is also a graduate of East Mississippi Community College, earning his associate's degree. Before joining the Starkville Police Department, Caden was a police officer for the Carrollton Police Department. Caden enjoys all outdoor activities and spending time with his wife, Kayla. Caden and his family attend Fairview Baptist Church in Columbus. Please join me in welcoming Caden. All right, now if our 4 new firefighters could please come forward. I'm first going to provide your introductions, and then I'm going to swear you in to make you official. First, I'd like to introduce Jonathan Kane. Jonathan is from Starkville and is a graduate of Starkville Academy. He attended East Mississippi Community College. Before joining the city of Starkville, he was a landscaper. Jonathan and his wife Kayla are the proud parents of a son, Carson. During his spare time, Jonathan enjoys fishing, hunting, and spending time with his family. Jonathan and his family attend Faith Baptist Church. Please join me in welcoming Jonathan. I'd next like to introduce Christopher Keys. Christopher is originally from Lexington, Mississippi, and is a graduate of J.J. McLean High School. He attended Mississippi State University, where he majored in music education. Previously, Christopher worked for Cytel as a customer service representative. Christopher is the son of Thomas Keys and LaTanya Moore. When time permits, he loves to play the guitar and piano and spending time with his fiancée, Crystal Hill. Christopher attends New Baptist Church in Columbus. Please join me in welcoming Christopher. I'd now like to introduce Michael Morrow. Michael is originally from Memphis, Tennessee. He is a graduate of H.W. Byers High School and attended Mississippi State University, where he majored in kinesiology. Prior to joining the city of Starkville, Michael worked at MVP as a maintenance tech and Papa John's as a delivery driver. Michael is the son of Melissa Morrow and James Thompson. When Michael isn't working, he enjoys mixed martial arts, exercising, and playing with his German Shepherd, Lucy. Please join me in Finally, I'd like to introduce Brent Weilman. Brent is originally from Aberdeen, Mississippi, and is a graduate of Oak Hill Academy and Mississippi State University, where he received a Bachelor of Arts degree in interdisciplinary studies. Brent previously worked for Hardware Inc. as an electrical wiring technician. Brent is the son of Billy Weilman Jr. and Linda Ludwig. He has 2 brothers, Michael and Tyler. Brent enjoys hiking, gardening, foraging for mushrooms, fitness, and traveling. He attends New Horizon Fellowship Church. Please join me in welcoming Brent. Now at this time, I'm going to issue the oath. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Corinne Waller,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States of America
the Constitution of the United States of America
and the state of Mississippi
and the state of Mississippi
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
both foreign and domestic,
both foreign and domestic,
and I will faithfully and impartially discharge
and I will faithfully and impartially discharge
my duties as a firefighter
my duties as a firefighter
of the Starkville Fire Department
of the Starkville Fire Department
under the appointment of the department
under the appointment of the department
according to the laws of Mississippi
according to the laws of Mississippi
and the city of Starkville,
and the city of Starkville,
to my skills and to the best of my skills and abilities.
to the best of my skills and my abilities.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. That concludes my announcements and comments this evening. Are there any comments from the members of the board? Alderman Wynn.
Will the following department heads come forward in this order for me, please? Mr. Herman Peters, Miss Emma Gibson Gandy, Fire Chief Yarber, and Police Chief Nichols. Did Chief Yarber leave out?
I believe he went outside with the firefighter.
Okay. 1 second, let's give Chief Yarber time to get back in. Good evening, you all. Mr. Peters, I want to first say thank you so much for the beautiful 4th of July fireworks on Saturday night. You and your staff did an amazing job. There were so many people there in attendance. Thank you for the DJ who played Pharrell's Happy, and people were singing and dancing in celebration by cooling the game. There was Mr. John Roberts Arnold there hosting the older crowd with Mr. Ross Williams singing. It was just a great night. No stones unturned. It was first class, and I just want to say thank you so much to you and your staff for that. Thank you. Ms. Gibson. It was absolutely beautiful. Ms. Gibson Gandy, your staff didn't work on Friday, and as a result, I know on Monday they were probably overloaded with all of our trash as a result of the 4th of July. Will you please tell them thank you so much for all that they did in restoring our city. Thanks to you and your staff over there, Sanitation and Environmental Services. Thank you. Okay? Chief Yarber, thank you so much for allowing me to ride the fire truck to the Sportsplex on Saturday evening. The little kid in me came out. They showed me how to blow the horn, and I just had an amazing time going down Highway 12, and they say blow the horn anytime you get ready. I did, and we stumbled up on none other than Police Chief Nichols. And I saw him, and he was in his personal vehicle. Guess what we did? We had a blast. We just blowed him on down. But I want to say thanks to your staff, and let me tell you something that was very touching. They had not eaten when we arrived there. And Todd Palmer's mom brought them some food that looked like it came from a catering service, but he said that his mom cooked it, and we all believed him, and they ate it. After they finished eating, the little kids all came up to get in the truck. Your guys just had a great time with the kids. But what stuck out in my mind, a little girl was there, and she was in a wheelchair. And her mother didn't bring her up there necessarily to get in the truck because she knew that she couldn't get up there. But your guys noticed her, looked at each other, went and got her, and put her in the truck and treated her just like they treated the other kids. And I made sure that I got a photo of that, and I'll send it to you. Chief Nichols, I want to say thanks to your guys for controlling the traffic on Saturday night because there were people everywhere. And while they were there, they walked around, had presents there, and they stopped and played Frisbee with the little kids. It was great. And there were no squabbles between them and the fire personnel. Only Chief Yarborough, your personnel tried to trick every officer that came along to get in the truck. I don't know what it was, but nobody would dare touch that truck. So again, I want to say thank you all so much for the 4th of July events that your prospective department has helped out with. And my last thank you goes to, thank you all. My last thank you goes to none other than our vice mayor. During the week of June 21st, we were all on the coast for our classes at conference. And the vice mayor served as mayor pro tem for our city, who is mayor pro tem as our city, served as acting mayor. And I understand that you had to adjust your schedule, and the next week the mayor was gone to represent us in Anaheim, California for the ceasefire reception or what have you. So the vice mayor, again, adjusted his schedule at his law practice. And I just want to say thank you so much, Vice Mayor, for doing that.
You're so
Now,
welcome. Thank you.
We will not be putting a motion on the table for any more money tonight, but we
I
just want to say
understand.
thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Mayor,
you.
I
Thank
yield
you,
the
lady.
floor at this
Oh,
time.
lady.
All right, are there any further comments from the members of the board? Any further comments from the members of the board? Alderman Walker.
Just quickly, wanted to say if you've noticed, again, this is related to Parks and Recreation in a sense. Right now, there are a lot of ball tournaments going on. If you pick up the Dispatch or the Daily, you look at all the all-star tournaments and things that are happening. And one of the things that I think we can be very proud of in our community is our dedication and how we embrace Parks and Rec, and not only from a sports standpoint, but from a leisure and a quality of life. We've seen over the last few weeks youngsters from Starkville win gold and silver and bronze medals at the state games in soccer in Meridian. We saw this last week, the 7-year-old All-Star team won the South State Championship in baseball. We have 8-year-olds competing in the South State tournament this weekend. We've had 9 and 10-year-olds compete in the World Series. So there's a lot of good momentum that we have in Starkville, and a lot of it goes without saying that our youth are quality individuals, and it all starts with moms and dads and granddads and grandmoms that help put them in a position to go out and play sports. I think it also shows the great opportunity that we have here in Starkville to really help us solidify what our identity is and embrace sports as not only a tourism and quality of life, but as a true economic engine that we can have for our city. So thank you for all the support. And when you see a youngster that's in the paper, give them a high five. They would appreciate it because they're playing hard and they're doing it for themselves. But they also it means something when they have that Starkville written across their chest. They take that seriously. So congratulations to all the youth that play our sports in town, and thank you for everybody that helps make that happen.
Any further comments from the members of the board? Are there any further comments from the members of the board? Any further comments? All right, seeing none, the next matter you have before you is, we'll now move to citizen comments. At this time, any citizen wishing to make comments may do so by coming forward, introducing yourself, and you'll be recognized to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes.
Just come here.
Mm-hmm.
Hi. My name is Meredith Wickham. I'm the young adult librarian at the Starkville Public Library, and I've come here tonight to just tell you briefly about some of the things we're doing in my department for teens in Starkville. As you may have seen on WCBI recently, we're in the midst of our summer reading program, and it's a fun program to help motivate teens to read in June and July. When teens close the book on the last day of school, if they don't open it again, if they don't read during the summer, it's a surprising statistic that they lose about 22% of their gains during the school year. So if you think about that for a second, that means the entire investment in that student, the teacher's salary, everything that goes into making that student do well for 2 months is gone, poof, when they just stop reading over the summer. So one of the great missions of the public library for over 100 years has been to encourage them to actually pick up their books over the summer and hopefully read. We want them to read for pleasure because that has the best result long term. And we're trying to improve their literacy scores. Right now, we're having pretty much a blockbuster summer. If you come in during some of the events for children, we've had over 350 kids at some of the programs. That's not counting parents, just the kids. It's a huge turnout. For the teen programs, we have less turnout, but we actually have a lot of turnout. Last year, we beat our record for attendance and participation by 88% year over year, and this year we look on track to beat that. We have some great partnerships with MSU Physics Department, the MDOT, things like that going on where we really get the teens involved. If you drive by or happen to visit, you'll see our artwork up on the wall. The Post-it note artwork was done by the teens. We do artwork and activities, crafts, tech training, book clubs, classes, all kinds of things all through the year for our teens, and we just wanted you guys to know about that. I might go 1 minute left. Okay, thank you. Anyway, we do that year-round for our teens. Our goal is to educate them, train them in digital literacy and online safety, provides them life hacks and guidance as they prepare for college and jobs. And we're proud of providing a safe third space between home and school for our adolescents, and we love seeing it when it's filled. So stop by sometime, see me in the teen section, and just be aware that's what your funds for the library are doing. They're making that happen for Starkville's teens. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Wickham.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alvin Turner, Ward 7. We are still trying to heal from the church shootings, and all we can do is pray that hopefully no one else snap. Or it's praying time all over. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. We have any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? All right, seeing none, we'll move to public hearings. We have already had the public hearing related to Mr. Millen's subdivision, so the next public hearing before you is a public hearing on the Jeremy Tabor rezoning from R1 to R3 with conditions. Mr. Sanders, would you like to introduce the project?
Yes, sir. Jeremy Tabor is seeking a rezoning of 2.1 acres of roughly about a 4-acre tract from, excuse me, wrong case. 2 acres of roughly a 4-acre tract near the intersection of Lynn Lane and South Montgomery, directly across the entrance from the Mason DeVille subdivision. The requested zoning district is R3 from R1, R3 multifamily from R1 single family. On June 9th, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval with conditions, with 5 conditions. In condition number 1, rezoning contingent upon subdividing proposed rezone area from the rest of the parcel within 90 days of the approval for rezoning. Each unit shall be single-family owner occupied, no more than 12 dwelling units. Buffer, condition number 4, buffer between low impact and medium impact uses per section 8 of the landscape ordinance required adjacent to R1 zone parcels, and item 5, required adherence to homeowners association covenants. Are there any questions that myself or Mr. Howland can answer for you?
Are there any questions or comments from the members of the board for Mr. Sanders?
I've got
Alderman Maynard.
the reference to the homeowners covenants. What homeowners covenants, I guess, are those from?
Well, the reason the board of the Planning and Zoning Commission is making that recommendation, that if we make it a part of their approval, then the city can enforce those covenants. If the neighborhood did not, if it's not part of your approval, then it would be up to the neighborhood to enforce them.
Any further questions or comments from the members of the board for Mr. Sanders?
I have.
Alderman Walker.
Mr. Sanders, the property that's listed in here as directly to the south is zoned R3.
That is
The
correct.
Maison DeVille property, that is, do you have the date of when that was on? Or that predates the R3A zoning, is that correct?
That is correct. I think it was somewhere around either 2006, 2007, and the R3A zoning district came about from that rezoning process.
Okay, so that piece of property, if you were to look at our zoning, it would probably be more classified along as R3A as opposed to R3, because there is no multifamily housing in that. It is all single-family housing. Is that
If
accurate?
it was developed today, it would be developed as a R3A development.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or comments for Mr. Sanders? Any further questions or comments? Alderman Carper.
Were all the proper notifications sent out to the adjoining landowners? With any objections?
There were several at planning and zoning, it's in here, I find it. One of the objections was from a neighbor to the east, Mr. Dyke. Is that the only one?
And also, Mr. and Mrs. Boyd of Pleasant Acres.
What were their complaints?
Mr. and Mrs. Boyd's complaint was the density and also their concern of any possible effect on infrastructure in their neighborhood, water, sewer.
And Mr. Guyton?
Mr. Guyton's concern was essentially also the density issue.
What about that buffer? How much buffer is it? How many feet?
20 feet. That's per section 8 of the landscape ordinance. That would be a low density to a medium density, or low impact to medium impact. That would be a 20-foot buffer.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments for Mr. Sanders? Any further questions or comments from the members of the board for Mr. Sanders? Any further questions or comments? All right, seeing none, thank you, Mr. Sanders.
Thank you.
We'll now move to the public comment portion of the public hearing for a rezoning. This process works a little bit differently than for a general public hearing. I will offer the applicant an opportunity to present their project first. You or a designee will have a maximum of 15 minutes to make any presentation you so choose. And then after the applicant has completed their presentation, anyone wishing to speak against the rezoning will have a maximum of 3 minutes per person or 15 minutes collectively. Applicant, are you ready to present?
Yes. My name is Jeremy Tabor. I'm president of Tabor Construction and Development. I'm here seeking approval, your approval of rezoning of this property from R1 to R3. I am seeking it in light of the approval and recommendations of the planning and zoning and the contingencies that they added to it. A couple, I'm not going to have a lot to say other than I kind of want to go over the core components of why I think this area meets the conditions for rezoning. I'm going to pass out this little map. Y'all can kind of pass it out around. But the subject property is basically in the center of this map. And one of the core attributes of getting a rezoning is showing change. There are 14 properties that have a zoning change of R3 or greater within 1.5 miles of the subject property. And there's rezonings all around it, to the south and to the north. So that's one of the basic core components of when you look at a property for rezoning. You know, has there been change? Yes, it's been a lot of change. We have actually done some developments in that area. I know y'all have seen Bell Grove and Annabella. Those were two multifamily developments that we had a R3 zoning on one and R5 on another. And then when you look at the property that we're looking at, if you look at Maison DeVille across the street, they've got 20 units on roughly 2.5 acres. We're looking at doing 12 units on 2 acres. So from a density standpoint, we're actually going to be less dense than the property across the street. The R3 zoning does allow us to do attached housing. Our proposed development, I'll pass this out too, is just going to be 6 buildings. Our target market is going to be retirees that are scaling down in our local community and also alumni that are looking for retirement housing here. These will be 2-unit dwellings in the square footage range of 2,000 to 2,500 square feet. They're going to have back alley garages. The unit's going to be pushed up forward. We're going to use the NATCO street designs for smaller streets. It will have a homeowners association to provide, maintenance and upkeep for guidelines for the homeowners. And our target price range is probably going to be around $300,000. So it's going to be a very nice, I call it a very nice comparable development to somewhat like Annabella. It won't be quite as dense as Annabella. And then if you look at the surrounding properties, and if you look at our comprehensive plan, it really serves as a buffer property. You've got C2 to the west, and you've got R1 on the other side of it, and you've got R3 on the other side of it. So it is an infill development. It's going to be a transition development. I feel like it'll be a positive impact to our community, such as some of our other developments have been. It's going to increase our tax base. And another thing with a comprehensive plan that suggests is offering a variety of housing. A lot of our housing that we've had in such as R3A, the closer you get to campus, the higher the property values are. So a lot of times to make the numbers work for development to happen, you've got to increase your density. And if you just look at R3A, you're going to subject yourself just to tract, when I say tract housing, from an overhead, it's just going to be row houses. Because that's the only way to get your density high enough to have a product that is going to be in an affordable range for a lot of our alumni and retirees. Otherwise, you're going to have to go to larger lots and higher priced homes. So we did a lot of research on what we feel like is a good target price range. We'd like to be in that 275 to 300 range, but we do feel like there is high demand for this product. We've had a lot of success at Belle Grove, which we sold out on, Annabella, and then we're also doing 7 garden homes across from Annabella that we've got 2 pre-sales on, and they're in about the same square footage size.
Are these gonna be single-story units?
They'll be a story and a half. We're going to do the main living area down and the kitchen and entertaining area down. We may have 1 guest bedroom upstairs. We're expecting our buyers to be probably 50 or older, so we don't want a lot of activity, I guess, having to walk up and down stairs.
What size, one unit, what size are you anticipating?
It's roughly around 2,000 feet.
About 2,000, yeah.
Mr. Tabor, do you have any further comments?
I've just got this back open. Can I answer questions now or just?
Wait till then.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tabor. At this time, is there anyone wishing to speak against the proposed rezoning?
I'd like to.
All right. Mr. Guyton, you'll have a maximum of 3 minutes.
I'll be very brief. My name is Mark Guyton. We live on the property that adjoins this development on 2 sides. We've lived there for a number of years. When we bought our house, we were surrounded by R1 zoning, and we're still surrounded by R1 zoning. And the one issue that's not been addressed in P&Z or by anybody is how can this keep from isolating our large lot, our R1 lot, and decreasing our property value. Nobody has addressed that. If you look right to the north, where a similar development is just taking place right to the north of Windermere, where they isolated another property between multifamily and some single-family homes. It ended up, they're tearing it down now. They sucked the value out of that house where there's nothing left but the value in the land. And that's what isolating my 1.5 acre lot's gonna do. By cramming 12 units onto a lot just a little larger than my lot, there's no way that it can do anything but take away the value of my house. Starkville has zoning to protect people from this very type of encroachment. I'm counting on that zoning protecting the value of our property. I've been there for a number of years. I'd like to stay there for a few more, and I'd really like for y'all to consider denying this. Dr. Emerson, I heard a term that he used several times in P&Z before he left, that Starkville does too much zoning by exception, referring to all these, we're constantly changing our zoning. I would like for us to put a little trust into the planning that was done when these zonings were set. And let's enforce the current zoning, and let's grow with our current zonings. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Guyton.
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
You may.
Mr. Guyton, will you remain, please?
Yes, sir.
Tell me, how close and in what relationship do you live to this subject property? And I understand from your comments you were there prior to this development coming forward. You have a 1.5 acre lot. So tell me, distance-wise, how close are you to this development?
Okay, my lot started being 1.5 acres, but the city's taken several chunks off the front where the new bike path, so it's a little less than 1.5 acres now. But we adjoin it across our back and across part of the side of our lot adjoins the new development. Our house is probably 10 or 12, 15 feet maybe off this property line.
Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
When it requires, but it has to reach a certain protest threshold.
No, he did not. He did not. I've got the law.
Okay, yeah.
We can look at it.
All right, are there any other comments in opposition to the proposed rezoning? Any other comments in opposition to the proposed rezoning? Any other comments? Seeing none, that will conclude the public comment portion of the public hearing. Are there any concluding questions or comments from the members of the board? Any concluding questions or comments from the members of the board? Alderman Carver.
I normally ask the city attorney this question, but I think that tonight's decision will be based largely on the fact of whether or not there's been a change of character in the neighborhood. So I'll ask the interim city attorney, in your opinion, do you think there's been a change of character? I know that the applicant stated 14 rezonings within 1.5 miles, but as far as what distance are we looking at, and is that sufficient rezonings? Or Mayor, you could pipe in if you want to. And do you think there's sufficient change of character in the neighborhood to suffice this?
I don't think there's any question, based on the rezonings that have occurred around the properties and the changing densities, that an argument can be made that a change has occurred. And sometimes it's a close call, but I don't think it's close in this case.
And the issue of determination is a discretionary issue that lies with the board, not necessarily based on the opinion of a lawyer. That's a determination as to whether there's been sufficient change in the neighborhood to justify the rezoning, and there is a public need. Those are the two elements of the rezoning question that the board has to consider. And any motion to approve it should be based on.
Any further questions or comments from the members of the board? Any further concluding questions or comments from the members of the board? Alderman Walker.
I agree with what was just said. I don't think there's any question that this request for rezoning meets the criteria of changing condition in the neighborhood. I agree with that completely. The concern that I have is not that Mr. Tabor wouldn't do a quality project, because the projects he does in town are of quality. My concern is along the line of Mr. Guyton's. I think if this was a R3A, I think it would be a much easier decision. R3 makes it a little more difficult of decision, mainly because when I look at these projects that have been rezoned right here, once you cross essentially Loxley Way, everything to the south of that is single family detached. And how much we want that creek. I do agree also that.
Oh, Mr. Taylor.
No, point out where is that? Where am I incorrect? Academy Village. What is Academy Village?
That's 168 condos over the top.
Okay, but that's off of Louisville Street.
No, it's off Academy Road.
But you get to it from here to the
Just
road.
Star Avenue.
And then all that kind of thing. That's R5? Yeah. And so I would say that the question I look at is to the west of the subject parcel is you have C2. I certainly agree that I think R1 is a better buffer right there. R3 is a better buffer right there, and R3A. I think what's likely to happen in this change of condition is I think we're bound to see Lynn Lane develop. The question is, how do we protect the developments that are already there? And I think that's something that I think we have to be mindful of. With Pleasant Acres to the north, you have single-family detached on large lots. The R1 lots, the one that's being subdivided, and Mr. Guyton's property would probably all fit the RE designation of residential estate likely. And I do think that this area is changing. The concern I have is how do you change and meet the needs and protect the homeowners that are there and at the same time allow development? R3A, you can't make the numbers work? Is that what you're telling me? All right, thank you.
Are there any further questions or comments in conclusion by the members of the board? Any further concluding questions or comments by the members of the board? Any further questions or comments? All right, seeing none, we'll conclude the public hearing. Mr. Sanders, do you have record of the number of protests that have been filed in this case and the number of homeowners?
As far as written documentation to our office, there have been no protests.
So you don't have any written protest? We did field one protest at the hearing.
And I have not received any telephone calls from you.
All right, how about the overall number of homeowners within the 160-foot area?
We did a 300-foot area, there was 15 property owners.
All right, so you've had one protest expressed in an area of 300 feet, which the standard the ordinance calls for is 160 feet. That would fall below the 20% threshold. Is that correct?
Would.
All right, so this, when the matter is before the board in a few moments as board business, this will require a simple majority. The standard for requiring a supermajority is if 20% of the property owners within 160 feet enter a protest. In this case, you have not had 20% of the property owners within 160 feet, so it will require simple majority. The next public hearing that you have before you is a public hearing on the Michael and Gail Cracker rezoning of 2.1 plus or minus acres from R1, C1 to B1. Mr. Sanders, would you like to make the opening presentation?
Sure. Mr. and Mrs. Cracker currently owns property at the intersection of Garrett and Old West Point Roads. They are requesting a rezoning from R1 to C1, a split zone parcel, to B1. The Planning and Zoning Commission at their June 9th, 2015 meeting recommended approval with conditions. If the property was rezoned to B1 buffer district and used as commercial or higher density residential, then the existing surrounding R1 single family residential, a buffer yard between the property and residential property would be required per landscape ordinance section 8. If the property were to be developed as commercial, only one curb cut will be allowed on Garrett Road at a maximum of 26 feet in width. The Garrett Road curb cut can be no closer than 200 feet from the intersection and 150 feet from western boundary of proposed rezoning. No curb cuts on Old West Point Road. Access must be by means of existing private road, otherwise known as Boyd Drive. If the property were to be developed as residential of any density, no driveway curb cuts allowed onto Garrett Road and no driveway curb cuts along Old West Point Road other than by access of existing private road Boyd Drive. No mobile homes shall be placed on the site. No multifamily development shall be placed on the site. Rezoning of property is contingent upon a lot subdivision within 6 months of rezoning approval. Those were the conditions of the Planning and Zoning's June 9, 2015 meeting as part of the recommendation of approval.
Are there any questions or comments from the board for Mr. Sanders? Any questions or comments from the members of the board? Alderman Maynard.
Mr. Sanders, on this property, if it's developed as residential, does staff agree with the limitation of no curb cuts on Garrett Road and requiring all the residential traffic to come out onto Old West Point Road?
Yes, we believe in keeping a smaller number of curb cuts.
And so it should be the one existing curb cut on Old West Point Road?
That is our recommendation.
Is that curb cut, since there's a four-way stop there now, do you see any issues with that curb cut being so close to that four-way stop? Is it about 100 feet right there? Maybe if that much?
Well, any proposed development would have to go through the site plan review process through the developmental review committee, and that access point may need to be adjusted depending upon what the city engineer sees in his staff's analysis.
Okay.
But we just do not want curb cut after curb cut after curb cut after curb cut. So that one curb cut that's existing currently may need to be adjusted.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments for Mr. Sanders? Any further questions or comments for Mr. Sanders? Alderman Walker.
Just for a quick update for everyone to hear. So we're looking to go from this piece of parcel that currently has two different zoning designations, and you're looking to make that the applicant is asking for that to be rezoned to B1. What are the differences between those two zonings and what B1 will allow to develop on that piece of property?
Well, there's not much of a difference between a B1 district and a C1 district. They allow for more of a, but a B1 will allow for more of a permitted residential uses. R1 is a traditional single-family detached, minimum of 10,000 square foot lot requirements for a home, a single-family home.
So is multifamily allowed in B1?
Yes.
Any further questions or comments from the members of the board? Any further questions or comments? Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Sanders. The public hearing procedure will be exactly the same as the public hearing procedure we used for the previous rezoning. At this time, the applicant or a designee has 15 minutes to make his presentation.
That's it.
You may.
Molly Jackson with Moore Law Office. I'm here representing Michael and Gail Cracker for this rezoning. What the Crackers are intending to do is rezone 2.1 acres of this larger tract. The 2.1 acres is currently split zone between an R1 and a C1 zone, which essentially yields it undevelopable, unable to be developed at this point. So what they are intending to do is to ask that it be rezoned to a B1 so that they can develop the property in a manner that would suit the surrounding neighborhood. The two criteria, as have been stated, are zoning changes, recent changes in the area. The city staff report notes that there are 8 rezonings that have been changed since 2005. Our report that you should have in your packet, we note 9. Those zoning changes have all been to a C2 zoning or a B1 zoning. The most recent, with the one exception being the most recent rezoning, was done in May of 2005, and it is the parcel directly to the north of the subject property. That was rezoned from the exact same scenario, a C1 and an R1, to a B1 buffer district. The reason that the Crackers are requesting a B1 buffer district is this subject parcel is surrounded by a mix of residential and commercial zone properties. They feel that the B1 zone will allow for the best use of a buffer between these two types of uses. The area surrounding has seen tremendous growth since Garrett Road has been built, and the Crackers actually have developed the cottages at Creekside down the street from the subject parcel here. What they are intending to do, the change conditions in the neighborhood dictate that this is an up-and-coming area. It's close to the university. The demand is high. The Crackers right now are looking to the residential uses in this B1 zone. And in doing so, they are looking to provide a natural buffer, something that will ease the transition between the commercial and the residential, which is consistent with the comprehensive plan. The B1 district is there to provide a natural transition between both commercial and residential uses. The effect on the neighborhood, as Mr. Sanders said, the B1 zone is essentially the same as the C1 zone. But as the Crackers are intending to lean more towards residential at this point, the development, as he said, would load off of Boyd Drive, which is a private drive that is located on the subject parcel. The Crackers have no problem with any residences coming out onto Boyd Drive and all of those residences using Boyd Drive as their access point. They don't have any issues with the conditions that the city has imposed. And in fact, Mr. and Mrs. Cracker self-imposed a condition, the two conditions, that there would be no mobile homes put on the property, and they also self-imposed that multifamily, 3 and 4 family, and 2 family housing would not be put on the site. The Crackers are doing this to ease the transition for the current residents that are there. They don't want to come in and ruin what the current residents enjoy in the area. And on a more personal level, they have the cottages at Creekside down the street. They don't want to do anything on this parcel that's that close that is going to negatively affect their other neighborhood that's currently being developed and it is prospering. The cottages at Creekside, they have sold all of the completed houses. They have just started 4 more, 2 of which are under contract. This area, and that shows that there's a public need. What the Crackers are intending to do on this subject parcel, there's a want for the community to reside in this area. It's close to the campus. The type of homes and residences that the Crackers are building in this area are in high demand, and they are selling very quickly. Additionally, being able to develop the subject property as it stands now, because of the split zoning, it can't be developed as it is. In order to develop it in any way, shape, or form, and to get any tax revenue coming into the city, it would need to be rezoned. So this would be a positive effect for the city, increasing the tax roll coming into the city. To wrap things up, you have our report, which is very detailed. To wrap things up, the B1 buffer district is a very logical and sensible transition area between the residential and the commercial properties surrounding. And we would just respectfully request that you consider this rezoning. And as I've stated before, Michael and Gail Cracker have no issues with any of the conditions that the city has placed on it thus far, and they're willing to follow all of the landscape ordinance and all the buffer districts that the landscape ordinance will require. All of that is being taken into consideration. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. At this time, is there anyone wishing to speak against the proposed rezoning? Anyone wishing to speak against? Anyone wishing to speak against the proposed rezoning? Anyone wishing to speak against? Seeing no one, are there any concluding questions or comments by the members of the board? Any concluding questions or comments by the members of the board? Any concluding questions or comments? Seeing none, Mr. Sanders, have you entered any protests, written or otherwise, with respect to this rezone?
I have not received any letters, emails, or telephone calls. Have you, Mr. Allen?
Received 1 phone call.
All right, and how many property owners were noticed?
30.
All right, 30 property owners. Was that in a 300-foot area?
30 within 300 foot. That's of the entire 18 acres, not just the area. That's
All right, so Mr. Attorney, that clearly would not satisfy the threshold required for this to require a supermajority, would it? All right, thank you. That will conclude the public hearing on the Cracker rezoning. The next matter before you is the discussion and consideration of setting dates and times for budget committee meetings. Discussion. Alderman Maynard.
Just wanted to remind the board, when we went back to the committee as a whole for budget hearings, we had discussed that we would host the budget hearing meetings 30 minutes prior to our board meeting, starting the first meeting in August. I wanted to make sure everybody was still okay with that. No need to, you don't have to vote on anything or change anything, but starting that first meeting in August, we will start at 5 o'clock instead of 5:30, so we can jumpstart budget hearings. We should have a draft of a budget, Mr. CAO, at that point.
Yes, yes, Paul.
Do we have the audit report back yet?
We received the adjusting entries from our auditors 10 days ago, roughly. Yeah, I mean, a week to 10 days ago. Staff have loaded those adjusting entries into our system. We anticipate that a final draft of the audit for your review is imminent. I mean, that's generally the last step that we would get, the adjusting entries. We can review those. The auditor will need to come and meet with the board. We would hope at the next meeting, and then following that, we'll have something to present to the public.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on that matter? Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, the next matter before you is discussion and consideration of proposal submissions related to benefit administration for the city of Starkville. We'll give Mr. Adams a moment to change positions in the room.
Mayor, if you don't mind, I'm going to invite Mr. Boyd to join me at the table.
Please.
Mayor, Vice Mayor Board, thank you. Thank you for allowing us some time under board business to make this presentation this evening. Basically, what we are hoping to effect here on the staff side is to first acknowledge that there was a charge that you all gave us related to establishing a request proposal document that could be advertised, from which we can solicit proposals. You gave us the charge of doing an initial scoring as a staff. We have and presenting those back to you. And so to that end, thank you for the opportunity to engage in that exercise. I think it was a great exercise for us as a staff to undertake. But to that, I'd like to say that we have completed that, and so what we're hoping to effect here is a handoff, if you will, understanding that this is clearly a policy decision that is right for your consideration. We believe that our work as a staff here has gone as far as it can go. These are our findings. Of course, we certainly understand that this is a matter for your consideration and for your decision making. So these are, I would say that our findings are tentative at best, and certainly you all may do with them whatever you want. We just thank you for the opportunity to present them. What you have before you here are the scores that we allocated to the top 4 proposals as a team. Backing up, we advertised 4 proposals. We had 7 responses that were received within the deadline. Those were scored by the staff team, and we have invited the top 4 to join us tonight. And why 4? As a staff, before the proposals were were evaluated, we determined that we determined a threshold of 80%. We felt that that any proposal that we received where more than 80% of the points were awarded to the vendor clearly demonstrated that that vendor could fully administer our benefit plan. And so what you see, there are the 4 that were above that bar, and we're pleased to report that there were 4 that were all well above the bar. Those were in no particular order this time. 2 local vendors, one based in Starkville, one based in Columbus, but with an office here in Starkville, and those were the Integrity Group and Galloway Chandler McKinney. And then 2 regional insurance providers who also had who both have a brick and mortar presence in our community through the banking services that they offer, but like I say, their insurance offices are administered elsewhere. Those are Bancorp South and Regions. You can see there the scores that we allocated for each under the various topics that were listed. At this point, I'd like to take a quick break and recognize that I believe a representative of all 4 of these companies have come to join us tonight. They were notified that as a staff we would be putting them before you tonight. So if I might take just a moment, if I could ask the representatives that representing each firm, if you would please just sort of stand up so our board and the public can see you. So would the folks from Bancorp South stand up, and then from Regions, from Galloway Chandler McKinney, and then from the Integrity Group. Thank you. And these are I would like to say as it relates to our staff, thank you for your interest in the proposals, basically in our benefit plan. We appreciate you all being here tonight, and we appreciate the commitment and the cost that you've incurred in putting these proposals together. They were very thorough, and there's a lot of information for our staff to go through, and the hard work that your teams put into that were evident, and we are appreciative. So thank you. Moving on from that, that is essentially what we have to present this evening as it relates to where we are now. Some steps that we might propose going forward. Again, these are just proposed. This is just something that we might offer as this is your matter to consider as the policymakers. There is one piece that is outstanding, and it relates to just where we are in the year, and that is a firm price on the major medical coverage in particular. There are because of the reinsurance relationships that we have in place, 10 months of claims are required. Is that right? Yeah, we need 10 months of claims history so that these providers, if you were to turn these providers loose to get us a price, we need to provide them 10 months of data as it relates to this year so that they can get us a price, a fixed price for next year. So one thing that we might offer as a next step for the board, if you are so inclined, would be the opportunity to seek that pricing from this or any collection of vendors that offer proposals.
Discussion. Alderman Nguyen.
Thank you so much, Mr. Boyd. Thank you so much, CAL. Just to set the tone and for the public consumption, I have a couple of questions that I'd like to answer, and CAL, you can answer those. Who are the members of the staff that participated in the scoring of the proposals?
Thank you, Alderman. The members of staff that participated in the evaluation of these proposals were, of course, myself, Mr. Boyd, our Human Resources Officer / Director, Ms. Stephanie Halpert, his Assistant Director, and then also Lisa Harden, our City Clerk.
Thank you so much. And just so that the public will understand, I just want to make this clear that no members of the board or the mayor were involved in this, but I'll verify that through this statement, through this portion. At any time, was any elected official present during any aspect of the process during the time that the insurance proposal were being discussed, considered, and evaluated?
Well, the mayor was with us at the beginning of the meeting where we scored them.
That's fine. Okay. What involvement, if any, did Mayor Wiseman have regarding the discussion, consideration, and evaluation of the insurance proposals?
None. There was he was not in the room when we scored.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. CL, I would like to start, if we may, interviewing our agent of records candidates. Is that okay now, that we do that?
Sure.
Okay. And let me.
Would you all be willing to field a couple of questions from an alderman?
Okay. I want to start first. When we go in the order that you have them up there, we'll go with Bancorp, Regions, Galloway, and Integrity. Okay.
Would-
And I'll just note, none of the groups that submitted a proposal came prepared to do an interview tonight. I would encourage the questions to be as minimal as possible.
They are. They are. Thank you so much. Mr. CAO and Mr. Bart, will you all move to the side? And
We will.
My questions are very, very basic.
My name's Kyle Bailey, by the way, representing Bancorp.
Okay, thank you so much. Have you or your institute ever applied for the agent of record with the city of Starkville before?
I have not. To my knowledge, we as an agency have not either.
Okay. How many employees are in your office that will handle health insurance matters if your agency or institution is selected as the agent of record for the city of Starkville?
It'll be split, because of the subject matter expertise that resides in different offices, it'll be split between 3 offices, Hattiesburg, Jackson, and Tupelo.
Okay, so let me go over that again. Hattiesburg, Jackson, and Tupelo.
Correct.
Hattiesburg, Jackson, and Tupelo.
Primary point of contact being Tupelo. But there
Primary-
is subject matter expertise that resides in Hattiesburg and in Jackson.
So no primary contact here in Starkville. Thank you. Okay? My next question is, I'm going to read something to you. Many of our city's employees are laborers and are assigned very short lunch breaks. Their workday ends at a time which most business offices are closed or closing. Therefore, it is very limited or no time at all for them to take care of personal businesses such as health insurance matters that may be an insurance bill discrepancy, an understanding of what his or her payment would be needed for certain medical procedures, or lacking understanding of the coverage they are provided. How would you or your agency address matters such as this with an employee whose time during work hours doesn't allow for them to attend a business matter such as this as it relates to insurance?
As a standard matter, of course, we're available to city employees at any given time. You know, we recognize that a lot of these people, especially guys that come in at 6 or 7 in the morning, don't get off till 6 or 7 at night. You know, proposal stipulated during business hours, but as a matter of course, they can call me, they can call either of the account managers at any given time. Our mobiles are open to everybody. Now, what we try to do is take that issue off of their plate, figure out what the issue is, and then resolve it for them so that they don't have to take time away from their job to do that. You know, as an industry, we're real bad about communicating. And many employees don't understand their coverage. They don't understand their EOBs. When they have a claim issue or a claim problem, it's very stressful. It's emotional. You know, you've got a sickness or potentially a death or a disability or an injury. We want to simplify that for them, take it off their hands, solve it for them, and then get back to them with the correct answer. Hold their hand through the process if it's necessary.
Right, because so many of our laborers and our personnel at the sanitation department, they only have like a 30-minute lunch break. So
Right.
that's no time for them to take care of anything, provided that they need to make calls during the week, because on Saturdays and Sundays, of course, your office hours are, they're in the office. Okay? I have many friends whose insurance coverage has a telemed component as part of their health insurance coverage. Does yours provide the telemed?
There's numerous vendors that provide that. We did not propose that because we've not really had a chance to communicate much with the city as to what their desires are and what direction they want to go with the program. I'm a big proponent of telemedicine. However, we have seen limited use. And given that you guys are not governed by ERISA for any prescription to be done, because you're a public entity, it's going to have to be done via face-to-face. We've got a telemedicine vendor here that's tonight with Vance Veazey that's one of our preferred vendors. And I'm a big proponent of it, to be candid.
Okay.
It's a very inexpensive way to control cost in a self-funded environment.
Exactly. My last question to you is, how is your enrollment done for employee coverage?
I'm sorry?
How's your enrollment done for employee coverage?
We do it in person.
Do it in person?
Our staff does it in person. At whatever schedule you dictate, as long as we can set it up.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
My next one is for Regions, for representative from Regions.
Good evening, I'm Preston Francis with Regions Insurance.
I'm Mickey Watkins with Regions Insurance.
Good evening. Thank you so much. In all fairness, I will ask you all the same questions as I've been asking. Have you ever applied for the agent of record with the city of Starkville before?
We have not.
Okay. How many employees are in your office that will handle health insurance matters if your agency or institution is selected as the agent of record for the city of Starkville?
We have 12 employees in our office in Ridgeland, Mississippi. We have 2 subject matter experts that will be located in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
Can I also add that we also, within those 12, we have 2 employees that I know y'all utilize Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi as your third-party administrator. We actually have 2 employees who were long-tenured employees at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi in their customer service area. We also have a long-tenured employee in our office who worked at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi who was a claim specialist. So we have a lot, and I myself worked at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi as the head underwriter for 13 years. So we have a lot of Blue Cross experience in our office.
So for the record, you all do not have an office located here in Starkville?
We do not, but we have a bank that is 3 blocks from the building, and it is available to us at any time to meet with your employees as needed.
But my question to you again is, you do not have an office specifically as an agent of record to handle insurance matters in the city of Starkville?
Regions Insurance does not.
My next question to you, and I'll read this. Many of our city's employees are laborers and are assigned very short lunch breaks. Their workday ends at a time which most business offices are closed or closing. Therefore, there is very limited or no time at all for them to take care of personal business, such as a health insurance matter that may be an insurance bill discrepancy, an understanding of what his or her payment would be needed for certain medical procedures, or lacking of understanding for the coverage they are providing. How would your agency address matters such as this with an employee whose time during work hours doesn't allow for them to attend a business matter such as insurance?
I would respond this way, Alderman Nguyen. I think everyone that is in this room will agree that our business has changed an enormous amount the last 20 years. Most of the providers that are Blue Cross Blue Shield in the Blue Cross Blue Shield network file their claims electronically. 92, 93, 94% of those claims go through on a first pass basis. So if they've got a claim issue, especially with their Blue Cross, which is typically the one that they're most concerned about, we're talking about a very small universe of problems. We have, as I said, we have specialists within our office who can address every employee that you have. Probably has a smartphone, an iPhone, something like that. They have email, they may have personal computers. Everybody in this room has businesses or has clients that are not located in a specific city that they may have a client in, and we take care of their service issues just like I'm sure the rest of these folks do.
I guess what I'm concerned about for our employees, as I've gotten to know them, they work until 4 and 5 o'clock in the evening. You all are closed. They can't call anyone.
You can call me at 6 o'clock in my office and I'll be there. Just about every evening except for Friday.
Yeah, everyone is accessible via mobile phone these days. Also, all of our account managers are carrying Blackberries as well, so they're accessible via email, really 24 hours a day.
Okay. I have many friends whose insurance coverage has the telemed component as part of their health insurance coverage. Will you all be able to provide telemed to our
We've got many relationships as it relates to telemedicine and are a proponent of it if it fits the direct need. It takes a lot of communication around that in order to engage the employee or that member to be able to get them to understand how to access the program.
Mm-hmm.
In the right situation, yes, we do recommend that, but the overall needs need to be addressed and reviewed before we could ever recommend telemedicine. But short answer is yes, we can provide telemedicine.
Good. Okay. And my last question to you is, how's your enrollment going for employee coverage?
It differs for each individual client. It can be online based, it can be face to face, either one. Again, it's an individual assessment of the client, their needs and wants, and then we go to that to be able to streamline their enrollment process, make sure it's communicated thoroughly, and hit all the topics that want to be done.
And you know, I hear you say online, and I think about some of our guys, because I know them a little bit better than you. Our street department, our sanitation guys, they really don't, maybe not necessarily understand how to process something online. So they would need the interaction with someone that would sit down with them and do their paperwork for them.
Right. Face-to-face is not a problem. We do a lot of face-to-face enrollment meetings.
Mhm.
That is just an assessment of the individual client to determine, from the far left side of face-to-face to the far right of, online, self-serve, portable enrollment, and everywhere in between. It's all individual assessment.
Us and our staff are available to have open enrollment meetings whenever you want them. I'm sure we could use the bank, we can have it here, we can have it wherever you tell us when to be here, and we'll be here.
Thank you so much. Okay?
May I jump in real quick?
Yes.
And I apologize for this board for jumping in. I just noticed something that I forgot to say a moment ago, which is sort of important as it relates to the schoolroom. May I do that now, or would you prefer that I wait until the end?
Will you please wait until the end,
I
if you
certainly
don't mind? The representatives from Galloway, please. Good evening.
I'm Jimmy Galloway of Galloway Channel Mechanic
Okay.
Insurance. This is
Yeah,
Renee Gibbons.
Okay.
And William Hilbin is with us from our Starkville office.
Okay. Thank you all so
Sure.
much. I will ask you all the same questions as I've asked the other two that have gone. Have you applied for the agent of record with the city of Starkville before?
We have not.
Okay. How many employees are in your office that will handle health insurance matters if your agency or institution is selected as the agent of record for the city of Starkville?
We would have 2 in Columbus that would primarily handle the account, and for other service issues as needed, Starkville.
Okay, repeat that again.
If we had other service issues and the two service people in Columbus couldn't handle it,
Mhm.
we would utilize some Starkville employees as well.
Okay, and where's your office located?
In Columbus?
In Columbus. Okay.
On Commerce, near the Lion Hills Country Club.
Okay, so it is in Columbus, it's not
Yes.
local. Okay. Many of our city's employees are laborers and assign very short lunch breaks. Their workday ends at a time which most business offices are closed or closing. Therefore, there is very limited or no time at all for them to take care of personal business such as a healthcare insurance matter that may be an insurance bill discrepancy, an understanding of what his or her payment would be needed for certain medical procedures, or lack understanding of the coverage they are provided. How would you or your agency address matters such as this with an employee whose time during work hours doesn't allow for them to attend a business matter such as this?
We try to educate during employee meetings
Mhm.
to the best of our knowledge and to the best interest of the employee, and make sure that they understand what they have and how to utilize the benefits. And we make ourselves available as much as possible after hours if need be for those particular meetings. We stagger our lunch hours, so we have employees that are there during the lunch period to answer questions. And we again are an electronic world, and we all have our electronic media cell phones that we have access to 24/7. If you utilize the Blue Cross product, if you continue to use that, as was mentioned, the Blue Cross relationship, they have a 24/7 nurse hotline that's available for your employees. And while we're mentioning Blue Cross, Blue Shield, and the relationships, all these agencies here have strong relationships with Blue Cross, or they wouldn't be here. But I chair their Agents Council in Mississippi and have for several years. And we have a very, very close relationship with Blue Cross. But we also, we don't work for Blue Cross. We work for you. And we have other vendors that we would go to for your benefit.
I guess why all of this is important to me. Back in the springtime, I did it out of curiosity. I tried calling Blue Cross Blue Shield. Do you know it took me about 47 minutes to get a human being on the telephone?
I don't doubt that at all. We have that frustration with it as well.
So, if it took me 47 minutes and I'm at my home on my phone, imagine how our city employee would feel that works for our street department, or they don't have time through the week and they're closed on the weekend. Okay. My last one. I have many friends whose insurance coverage has the telemed component as part of their health insurance coverage. Do you provide that?
We have several vendors that provide that, and as of late, we've done some due diligence with University of Mississippi Medical Center and Mississippi State University. Chip Templeton came to us from Mississippi State. We went to University of Mississippi Medical Center, toured their facilities, and have got several proposals out now for various groups. But there are other vendors, there's several vendors that offer it, and we're big proponents of telemedicine. It's just not come of age yet in Mississippi, but hope to utilize it.
Okay. How's your enrollment done for employee coverage?
Physically, with enrollment meetings, we use as many employees as we need to adequately enroll. And again, education is a big proponent of that process. We want your employees to know what they have and how to best utilize it and spend as little money out of their pockets as need be. We're also big proponents of a healthy workplace and pushing the healthy benefits, the healthy you benefits you have, and also just healthy lifestyles.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And last is the integrity group. Thank you all so much. I will ask you all the same questions out of fairness as I've asked of the others. Have you applied for the agent of record with the city of Starkville before?
Several times.
Okay. When and whom did you speak to regarding that?
I have to Lynn and to Marquetta and to the mayor himself.
Okay. When you say Lynn, you mean?
Lynn Sproul.
And when was that?
3 or 4 years ago.
Right, that wasn't, okay.
Right.
And that was Miss Marquette Outlaw?
Right.
Okay, thank you. How many employees are in your office that will handle health insurance matters if your agency or institution is selected as the agent of record for the city of Starkville?
5.
5, okay. Where's your office located?
301A Academy Road in Starkville.
Okay. So that is local?
Yes.
Okay. Many of our city's employees are laborers and assigned very short lunch breaks. Their workday ends at a time which most businesses' offices are closed or closing. Therefore, there is very limited or no time at all for them to take care of personal business, such as a health insurance matter that may be an insurance bill discrepancy, and misunderstanding of what his or her payment would be needed for certain medical procedures, or lacking understanding of the coverage they are providing. How would you, your agency, address matters such as this with an employee whose time during work hours doesn't allow for them to attend a business matter such as this one?
Well, on Jimmy and I are friends, I beg to differ with him on the on what the employees are having problems. They do have a lot of problems. It's a coding. We have tons of coding issues with the providers, and they don't understand how something's been paid, or they don't understand what their deductible, how it should be paid out. And now with the healthcare reform, with the maximum out of pocket, everything is changing. And to sit with them one-on-one, and we stay after hours. If they'll call us, we'll stay after hours. We will go there to their lunch. All my staffs, and even I go, we're trained to go and meet with them. We do that. We set an appointment and say what's convenient. If you want to come by our office, that's fine. And yes, I agree that we all have clients all over the state, but this was a parameter of this board that they wanted to be able to provide to the employees something personal with the employees, that they could see them and meet with them.
Exactly, and I like the fact that you are one of the ones that are local. I have many friends whose insurance coverage has the telemed component as part of their health insurance coverage. Does your agency provide the telemed?
We do, and there are several vendors. I have brought Vance Veazey with me tonight. He's with MD Live Telemed, and this is where the future is going. You have many employees, and for you that might not know what this is, let me explain. The employees might not go to the doctor. They'll just continue to get sick. Whereas this is where they can call or get on their computer, if they have a computer, and they talk with the doctor. and a doctor can call in, and I'm gonna let Vance explain all about it, but the doctor can call in a prescription, anything but a narcotic, so that if they get, say, bronchitis, and the doctor can call in something immediately, they don't have to miss work perhaps, and the employee doesn't have to pay a copay at the doctor's office. Vance, I'm gonna let you tell about
Well,
this.
Debbie's exactly right, and thank you for having me today. One way to look at telemedicine really is it's the first line of defense to not having to go to the primary care or urgent care, or for goodness sakes, the emergency room when you have the flu or maybe a cold or a sinus infection. So at MD Live, what we do is we provide access to doctors 24/7 anywhere in the country. We have not only is that primary care physicians, but also pediatricians. So if you have a sick 2-year-old at 10 o'clock at night, you can call and speak to a pediatrician. And what will happen is that employee they can either go online or they can simply make a phone call to an 800 number and activate their account with MD Live. So they don't have to be computer savvy. They don't have to have a computer. If they have a telephone, they can speak with a doctor and get their needs handled that way. It is 24/7 access anywhere in the country. One thing that's really impactful, I believe, is when you have a $0 copay. So what that means is, obviously, there's no office visit expense and no copay. Well, if you have a worker out there that, let's say it's an $8 an hour labor, they may skip one to the doctor if they have to pay $30 or whatever that might be out of their pocket to see the doctor. But with this, they have access to doctors 24/7 to handle their prescriptions that way. If you look at the average cost out there, primary care is $165 per visit. Urgent care is $155. The emergency room is $1,100. So basically what we want to do is get employees to use this as the first line of defense, and not going to the more costly alternatives. And if we can redirect a small population to do that, especially in a self-funded environment, every time that employee calls our doctors, and they're all board certified in the state of Mississippi, they're going to speak to those doctors and have their prescriptions handled that way. So instead of having the $155 urgent care visit, they can speak to our doctors. And this is for acute care. We're not talking about if a guy has 104 fever, he needs to go see the doctor. But for sinus infection, colds, flu, upset stomach, the list is pretty long of opportunities.
I think
to
at
use our
one time or
doctors.
another, all of us, there have been times we just need to call the doctor. We don't need to go in and see him and incur a cost.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
agree.
And what's the turnaround time? Even if we call our regular doctor and you have to talk to the nurse and they'll say, well, we'll call you back after we talk to him, and it's normally like several hours before you hear from them.
Right.
And
Well, with MD Live, the average callback time is, I believe it's, and this is kind of crazy, so it's 28 minutes. So it's under 30 minutes that you're going to speak to a doctor. Now, there are cases when it's taken an hour, but that's maximum. But the average time is anywhere from 12 to 28 minutes.
Thank you.
One other thing, if I might add, sorry, Debbie. One other thing I might add, and so many of us in this world have smartphones now, but you can put a MD Live app on your phone, and literally within 5 minutes, you're speaking to a doctor. These employees can elect to simply talk on the phone to the doctor, or they can set up a video conference with a doctor, and that's a virtual doctor's office visit is basically what they're having. Those doctors are going to have all their medical history in front of them. So the technology with telemedicine is really exploding, and it's a fun time to be.
And we did pull, in the information we requested, and all the agents got it, was information on your emergency room and your primary care physicians, how many went, and you said the city of South Haven.
Yes, absolutely. The city of South Haven was effective 1/1, and they've had great experience with that, and I can certainly show you whatever you need from the city of South Haven.
Thank you. And my last question is, how's your enrollment done for employee coverage?
Oh, that's our premier deal. We meet with all the employees, we bring in an enrollment team, and our cafeteria administrator is Colonial, and they bring in an enrollment team, and I'm gonna let April I'll tell what we do, and then she's gonna tell what they do.
Okay.
She sets up she puts our team together, and we bring in a team. But what we do in our office to get prepared for it, we give her all the data so that she can put it in their computer. But we also make a complete packet for every employee that has all of their information in it about who their.
Let me say this. I have city insurance and several of the other members of the board have it. I have never received a packet about any insurance information ever.
Really?
No.
And it's required by law.
Yeah. But I can't speak for the others, but I can speak for myself, and I thought that was strange because I worked with a government agency before, and that was the first something that you got was your insurance packet.
And now, because of the healthcare reform, so many other documents are supposed to be in the packet. It's required that the employer, it's the employer's responsibility to do this, but we take the responsibility away from the employer, and we make sure all of it's in there, and we do this when you hire someone new, and we do it at every open enrollment, and we meet personally.
Thank you.
This is April.
Miss April, will you run that down for me, how you'll set
Okay.
this up?
So we have a one-on-one meeting with the computer, and we go through all the products that are available, and they make their selections. All the pricing is in there, so once they make all their selections, we're gonna give them a total. If they look at that total and they say, oh, wait a minute, I cannot have that much come out of my check, we go back down the list and see where they can tweak some things, where like they may want a certain product, but they're not gonna get it this year because they just can't have that much come out of their check. So we also answer all their questions about all the different products that are available, and they get to see how much is gonna come out and what they've chosen. At that point, once we're finished, we print out a document for each employee to take with them. We bring our printers during that one-on-one meeting. They take their printouts with them so they can see what's gonna come out of their check, and they'll have that when they get their first check. If they go home with that document and their spouse says, what the heck did you get? We can't have this much come out. They have until open enrollment ends to call myself, stop by Debbie's office, whatever enroller they met with, they can go to their boss. They can make a change in that enrollment before the enrollment ends and take something off, or maybe they didn't get something that their spouse says, where is this? You know, you didn't order that, you didn't get that, and then they have a chance to make a change. So the one-on-one meeting is where they get the chance to ask questions and choose their products.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. CAO, will you come forward? Let me say this, Mr. CAO, and I'm not speaking for the mayor or any other members of the board. For me, it was important that I asked the questions that I needed tonight. Just as we've interviewed for a fire chief, a police chief, a community development director, any of our appointed officials, I felt that it was important for me tonight to interview the agents of record candidates.
Thank you, Alderman.
And if I had not done that tonight, there was no other time that we were going to be able to do this. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, and excuse me for interrupting her. I was just, had a little trouble getting into my email here before I started this. There was one thing in my notes that I wanted to be sure that I covered tonight related to the scoring. And as those numbers have been on the screen for a while and everyone has seen that, there are two quick things I want to speak to. And it just relates to, and I'm not calling it a flaw in our process. I think it's the best we can do given the information that we had today. But you will notice these totals include a line on pricing. Remember that we do not have firm pricing on the major medical piece, which is the largest, that is the largest piece that we as a city will fund, so that's weighted heavily. So just know that all of these could be 30, all of them could be 35. We anticipate that at final, these numbers will move. Also, this miscellaneous category pertains to a question that I think Mr. Boyd added to our RFP, which I thought was great. Recognizing that we are not insurance experts, we added a catch-all provision that was just sort of, look, if we're missing it, let us know about it. And that's and so to that end, if there are coverages, I mean, Alderman, to the point that you've fleshed out so well tonight, I think telemedicine was something that we would have never known to ask for. I'm pleased to hear that vendors can provide it, because I'll be honest, I didn't know it existed prior to this. And so
Let me tell you how I learned about it. Our colleagues over there at the county have telemed.
Okay.
So
Well, there you go.
sometimes they don't want to go to the doctor. Hey, they
Well,
call
and see,
them on the phone.
that's a great illustration. As a staff, we recognize that we are not experts in the insurance business, but we felt that we would have strong participation from people working groups that were experts. And so there was a catch-all provision to just let us know about things that were missing. And so that miscellaneous portion was pretty difficult to score, because what I can tell you is that everyone who submitted a proposal gave us everything that we asked for, but scoring the pieces that were above and beyond what we asked for were difficult. And so just I offer that to you just to say the scores there are actually potentially a whole lot closer even than we have put there. But we are pleased to recommend all 4 of these to you for consideration. That's all I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Maynard.
CO, when is the best reasonable time we can expect for these agencies to have firm and fixed pricing numbers for us? And are you or Mr. Boyd going to communicate to each of these agencies the format of that firm and fixed pricing so we know we're comparing apples to apples?
Yeah. Alderman, thank you for those questions, and I'll take them in order if that's okay. The first one, as it relates to timing, as I mentioned earlier, we need to be able to provide these potential vendors with 10 months of claims data so that they can finish their pricing. And guys, if you would just nod and agree with me on that, if that is correct. The long and short of that, we'll have that. So that'll take us through our July claims. We'll have that August 10th, we believe. We would like to distribute that information, the information that they need to finish their pricing to them on August 10th. And we would ask, given that that is within a month of when we normally do our open enrollment, assuming that you were to go forward with these 4 vendors, it means that our incumbent vendor will not be retained, so we'll need time to manage that transition. So we would ask for a pretty quick turnaround. You all meet on the 18th, if possible, and I'll have to turn to these guys and make sure it's possible. We would like to have their pricing back by the 17th so that we can do 2 things. One, confirm to you on the 18th that we have it, and give you some guidance as to when we think we can have them scored so that you can schedule a meeting to deal with that. And if you don't mind, Alderman, I'm going to,
Yes, I've talked to the prosecutor, they can have it for us.
can everybody here get us something about the 17th? If we got you claims date on August, but no later than August 10, can you get us a firm price by August 17? Is that doable? All right, we're hearing that's doable, so we would be able to present that to you on the 18th for your consideration with the date. And Mr. Boyd and Stephanie and Lisa and I would need to confer, because obviously what we've got to check there is we've got to compare the prices. We're asking these new vendors to take on considerably more administration than our current vendor does, so we just need to know that this hits that threshold. The second piece, or the second question of that relates to how they would want to respond. Mr. Boyd outlined a great process today, which hits the bullet points of exactly of the pricing that we need first on the coverages that we have requested, but then also includes language as it relates to the compliance administration that we're looking for specifically as part of the service that's being provided. We would like to distribute, with your permission, knowing that you haven't seen it, but Mayor, I believe you were copied on the email that Randy developed, but if you all were agreeable, we would like to distribute that, and we would have the agent who is on the proposal shoot us back a response saying that they are in receipt of that and understand. We would document that to present to you on the 18th as well.
If you would like, I can read it to you, and what I'll do is, unless the motion states otherwise, these will be the standards that are used, and what the final reports will be judged against. Alderman Little.
On the 18th meeting, I would like to see each one of the vendors come back and present maybe a 10-minute presentation to the board and allow the rest of the board to ask questions and have it maybe more like an interview process where the others can wait outside the room like we do interviewing anyone else, so they're not privy to the questions coming, and do it in that manner. And we need it in the form of a motion. Do we need that? Or we just lay it out there?
No, you can make it in the form of a motion, or I can I can lay out a
Okay.
protocol, and
Okay.
if nobody makes a motion to the contrary, that's the way we'll do it.
Mayor, if I might be recognized, something I might offer. The board has just agreed to have a budget and audit committee meeting on that date. That is a committee of the whole. It might be appropriate to start those at 5 and use that as the budget meeting for the day if the budget chair and vice mayor and mayor were agreeable to that.
Yeah, so that board meeting in August, I believe, is August 18th. If you set your deadline for proposals on the 17th, you're not going to have time for a full review of the proposals, but you would have time to see what is presented and conduct your interviews that night, if you would like, and then follow up either at a special call meeting, preferably at a special call meeting, because your next meeting is not until the first Tuesday of September, and you're really getting to the point where you almost don't have enough time for open enrollment at that point. So I would recommend sometime between your August 18th meeting, if you conduct interviews at that meeting, and the September meeting, you have a special call and make a selection. And y'all won't, I'm going to read these standards because it is critical information. And this was, I asked Mr. Boyd to distill everything that we would request, pricing and clear description of services on, and this is what he gave me. It's benefits, medical would be equal or better to our present plan. Dental would have to be equal or better to our present plan. Life would be equal or better than our present plan. Supplemental plans offering comparable to the present plans. Now this one is a little bit different. This is something our staff is interested in pursuing. A disability plan, none presently offered as a city cost sharing plan. Our staff is interested in exploring the possibility of a disability plan, and what they'd like to consider is a plan to pay 50% of regular earnings starting at 90 days of disability, benefits up to 6 months. COBRA, this would require full COBRA compliance services and a fixed cost. Compliance, ensure that the city's full compliance with all regulatory areas related to employee benefits, including preparation of reports and submission on a timely basis, any necessary legal guidance pertaining to benefits, timely presentation of changes necessary due to new changes in regulations, costs to be included in the quote, administration, maintain all eligibility and participation listings, balance of billings, working with city staff to handle all administrative details associated with the plan, includes payroll changes, tax issues, and other notices to employees, handle open enrollment changes, terminations, and other administrative details to ensure proper coverage and billing functions, cost to be included in the quote, communication, prepare employee communication material relating to benefits, including plan summaries, open enrollment communications, plan changes, benefits at a glance type communication materials, periodic letters to employees pertaining to benefits, and other materials as needed to ensure employee knowledge and understanding and appreciation of benefits, cost of preparing materials to be included in the quote, city to be responsible for cost of printing or duplication of materials. Now, if there is not a motion to the contrary, what I would do tomorrow is to direct the staff what I would do tomorrow is I would direct the staff to issue this to the 4 highest scoring proposals, giving them a deadline of August 17th to respond with final services and pricing, and we would put in motion the process that I described just a few minutes ago with interviews on the 18th and a meeting to follow.
And we're happy to do that administratively. That's just conferred with Mr. Boyd. That's all included in the original. All of those are included in the original RFP. It's just a reiteration of that, so Mayor, we'd be delighted to distribute that at your direction.
The critical component, from my standpoint, is having fixed pricing. And as everyone represented tonight has indicated, they can have that by August 17th. Mr. Boyd believes, though the window is tight, we can meet our obligations with respect to open enrollment if we stay on that timeline. I would recommend that you do ask them to firm up everything they're offering on the services side and exactly how much it's going to cost the city to do so. Is there any further discussion on that matter? Alderman Walker.
Only thing, unless I missed it when you were reading that, do we need to give each group a specified time limit on what their presentation time will be?
10 minutes was a suggestion I heard, and unless I hear otherwise, that is the procedure I'll use at the meeting on August 18th.
10 minutes with follow-up questions.
And they will be informed in advance. Well, they're all hearing it tonight, but they will be reminded in advance of the 18th that they'll have 10 minutes to make their presentation. And then, of course, y'all may question them as long as you would like to question. All right. So if there's no more discussion and there is no motion on the matter, that is how we will proceed. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, thank you, gentlemen. The next matter on the agenda is the discussion and consideration of outside contribution requests for fiscal year 2016. You may.
Mayor, every year at this time, as we begin the budget process, one of the items this board is charged with is looking at outside contributions and how we fund agencies and others that request funds from this board. The 2 years we've done budget so far, I've been the one that addressed this, and I always start off with the fact that we know that every agency that requests funding from the city of Starkville is a worthy agency. We choose not to fund an agency or a particular organization. It's not that we're against that agency or organization. It just comes down from my view that we have a limited amount of funds available, and we have to be prudent with the city's tax dollars in how we distribute those funds, because those are actually your tax dollars. What I have passed down across the table is going to be my recommendation, not as the budget chair, but as the Ward 5 alderman, and I'm putting this on the table just to get the discussion started. My recommendation actually cuts outside funding by amount of $9,323 when it's complete. The next item that we discuss is the maintenance contracts for warning sirens. That's where I have earmarked that $9,323 to go if it's there. What you have in front of you and what was also in your packet is a listing of the 2013, 14, and 15 budgeted and requested items. The 2016 request are there. That was in the packet. What you have in front of you that I just handed out is the 2016 budgeted line is my suggestions for what we fund in 2016. The changes on that from 2015, I will quickly highlight. In 2015, we funded a KMG Creations request at the amount of $500. I'm requesting that we do not fund that this year. I'm requesting that we cut funding to the horse park from $30,000 to $20,000. I'm requesting that we increase funding for the library from $170,400 to $175,400. And I'm requesting that we fund every other agency that we funded last year that's left there at the same amount and not adding any new agency funding for this year. That takes our budgeted, if this was approved, would take our budgeted outside contribution funding from $423,723 in 2015 to $414,000 in 2016. And that's my motion.
All right, so Alderman Maynard has made a motion to adopt the proposed outside contributions for the FY 2016 budget as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Discussion. Alderman Carver.
So I guess my main question I was gonna ask you the way is why the cut to the horse park? Or is there?
We need the funding to repair tornado sirens. That's where that, and the library needs additional funding as well. The horse park has a method of raising revenue and charging revenue. The library does not have a method of raising revenue and charging revenue for vendors.
On the library funding, they requested 190 is I saw that was the only one that had in parentheses, it says half of a roof was 19,450. Is that gonna?
In 2014, we funded the library $170,400. During the year, they had some roof damage. We split the repair cost with the county, and each of the city and the county each paid $19,450 to repair their roof. I believe that was an emergency situation, if I remember correctly.
And then my last question for you will be, there was no request for the PDD on the home meals?
There was no request presented from the PDD for home meals. That comes, it'll come after the deadline. We'll have to consider it at that point. It was not included in the budget request that was provided by the clerk.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed? It's unanimous. The next matter you have before you is the discussion and consideration of a 3-year siren maintenance quote from Precision Communications.
Do you recognize?
You may.
Ms. City Clerk, we recently received a revenue check from Guerin Incorporated to the city for right at $10,000. We recently received a revenue check from Guerin Incorporated for right at $10,000. In addition to that, we have in the fire department budget a line item of $5,000 to fund siren maintenance. If this body so chooses, I would like to take that revenue check plus that line item to fund year 1 of this 3-year contract. I know we had siren tests today. I believe Alderman Little received a call from one of his constituents that said the siren in his neighborhood didn't go off again. You know, this is a matter of public safety, and we need to address this issue and make sure all of our warning sirens are working. Our neighbors to the north, our neighbors to the east have all had serious tornadoes come through their towns, and we need to make sure that we're being proactive in doing this. So with that, I recommend that in the additional revenue that we had from what we just passed be directed in next year's budget to the fire department budget to cover year 2 and 3 of this contract that we have received, and that in year 1 we use the revenue sources already identified. I make the motion that we adopt the Precision Communications estimate and contract as presented at the table.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to adopt the Precision Communications the siren maintenance contract as presented at the table, funding year 1 of the contract requirements from the unanticipated payment from Gearin and the civil defense siren line item in the fire department budget, and also committing to raising the civil defense line in the fire department budget to accommodate payments in year 2 and 3 of the contract. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, it is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits? Any discussion?
I'd just like to say I want to thank the board on acting on this tonight. Mr. Daniels is here back there in the back, and he communicated with me today that the siren, again, did not fire, and we've had multiple conversations about it over the last several months, and I'm glad to see this getting addressed by the board. Thank you.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter before you is the request of approval for the Jeremy Tabor rezoning from R1 to R3. Discussion. Mr. May.
Can I be recognized?
You may.
This is a tough one. For me, I think there are a number of factors here at play that make this a difficult decision. I think protecting our R1 is important. R3A, I think, is an easy decision. R3 is a little tougher for me. So I'm going to make the motion to deny the request.
A motion has been made by Alderman Walker to deny the request from Jeremy Tabor to rezone his property from R1 to R3. Alderman Walker, is that your motion?
Yes.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Walker, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No.
Discussion. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, well, before I call for the vote, remember, if you vote in favor on this one, you are voting to deny the rezone application. If you vote against, well, you are not voting for it, but you are voting to keep the motion that would deny it from passing. It reverses the votes from what you would usually be making, so it is noteworthy prior to having.
Wait on Carver, please. Alderman Carver.
Yep, I'll give him a second. Can somebody go check and see if he's in the hallway?
Got it, Chief.
All right, Ben, the motion that has been made is for denial of the Jeremy Tabor rezone. So if you vote in favor of the motion, then you will be voting to deny the project. If you vote against the motion, you won't be voting to approve the project, but effectively, that's what you're doing. All those in favor of the motion to deny, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. All right, by a vote of 4 in favor with 3 against, by a vote of 3 in favor with 4 against, this measure fails. Now we'll go back into discussion on the matter, and assuming that vote total indicates that there are 4 in favor of approval, a motion to approve would be in order.
Mr. Mayor?
Alderman Walker.
I think since the motion did not, I think the conditions that have been presented by staff, I think are a reasonable start at protecting the R1 residents in the neighborhood. I think to allow for the best use of the property and to allow for the most likely to minimize the disturbance to the R1 property around, I would like to add a condition. I would like to add the condition that, and I might need a little help with how we describe this property line. Let me get to the map so I can see it. I'll let the city attorney help me.
This is line. This is
northeast.
Well, is this where the?
Yep. That's what I'm
You could call it the area that borders the Guyton property. You're talking about this line and that line, right?
Yeah, but I think this is what I'm primarily concerned about.
I would describe it as the area south of,
The southern Guyton property.
southern border of Guyton.
Okay, let me get this.
This line right here.
Yeah. Mr. Tabor, before I make this condition, I think the projects that you've done at Annabella and Belgrove, I think those are good. And I think while we're looking at a 20-foot vegetated buffer, that's what was the condition. I think that's a very reasonable request. My suggestion would be, if you look to the south, you have Maison de Ville, you've got a physical barrier that you're looking at there that makes the property look nice, but it also prevents headlights. I mean, look, I know tonight we're talking about a zoning issue and not a site plan issue, and those site plans can change. But one of the things that I would be concerned about if that were my R1 property would be headlights, those kind of things coming from a multifamily project into there. So I would be looking at a condition for the parts of the property that abut R1. That would be to the properties to the north, to Pleasant Acres, and around to the back of the western part of the Guyton property and the southern part of the Guyton property. Look at adding a condition where we're talking about adding a masonry privacy wall, similar to the work that you've done at some of the other places to help minimize that to create a stronger sense of buffer. And if I were to do that, I would say we'd minimize the vegetative buffer by 10-foot vegetative buffer in combination with a masonry wall, not to be on average of between 7 and 8 feet tall. Because I see, when I look at this, I mean, I think the natural progression is going to be, even though this property is being subdivided, looking to the property just to the east, even though it says in the packet that's likely to remain R1, I think the long-term likelihood of that to remain an R1 single-family lot is limited. And so this would likely be a protection of keeping that, so we have a clearly defined boundary from that R1 property and the R3 property.
Possible show you something?
Yeah.
I would be okay with doing a fence, I just wanted to show you something. See this picture? That's his roof line.
Okay.
I'll show you where we are here.
So yeah, where's the picture taken from?
Picture's taken from this corner. Currently, this house is up on a ridge.
Okay.
This is lower, and this
Yep.
is all gonna be cut down. So
Yep.
I'm just saying from a vehicle light.
It's gonna be at the roof level.
It's gonna be at the roof level. I'll show you one picture.
Can I ask?
Sure. You have the floor.
This,
Yeah.
that's on his property straight across, right here.
Okay.
Going right there. So, while we were intending to do a fence, I guess I'm just communicating, when you say a masonry fence, in types of, you're talking about different levels of money and
Sure.
different, you kind of get into it, but I would be willing to do a fence, not necessarily a masonry fence, but I did want to point out that from a car vehicle standpoint, there won't be anything hitting anything that they would see in their home. And then this is we already got a pretty good vegetative buffer on their property.
And so that would be another question, this is for you, is any opportunity, I'm looking at, and I don't know, based on this picture, I don't know where the property line is. So in this 20-foot vegetative buffer, is gonna be opportunity to do some sensitive grading where you're able to keep so a preference I would think would be to keep a lot of the big trees as opposed to cutting all those down and coming back with some very small
Correct.
material.
And I don't know if you've noticed, most of this has probably, I would call it 15-year pine on it, that's been planted, that's
Right.
row planted. This area here and back here, I would like to try to keep some of that, because this elevation's all pretty flat. Most of the grading work's gonna be up here, where it slopes back down at that low area. And there is some pine trees here. Here is more of a, it's really not much of it's not really any trees on this line right here. He's got a fence and a garden right here. So I would be willing to do a fence here and here. Another thing, when you get into masonry, if you do have some trees that you want to keep, you have to do
You're gonna have
footings. And you get
footings,
into
sure.
issues, that issue, so. If we could maybe agree to maybe a wood. And I want it to look as good as I can make it look, but I don't want to handcuff myself to a masonry fence if it's something, A, that's cost prohibitive, and two, if it's, you have to take down trees that I don't think either property owner wants us or them.
So that, can I hold this for a second?
Sure.
All right. I'm gonna ask Mr. Guyton, since you're here, is that's on your property, or is it on the subject property?
That's the line is real close to that.
So that's basically somewhere in here is what you're saying, Jeremy, somewhere in this area?
That was taken just up here straight across.
So you're okay with the 20-foot buffer that's already been, that's part of the condition? That's part of the
That's part of the
rules?
landscape.
That's part of the landscape ordinance. Mr. Guyton, preference for the 20-foot landscape, or would you like a fence or something along that line? Or are you comfortable as you can be, with the vegetated buffer?
The masonry wall would be fantastic. That would give me the best protection without.
And so I'm gonna look at this is,
I don't know legally if y'all can recommend masonry walls. To the zoning condition.
do you have an opinion on that?
I don't. My judgment. Planning Commission placed conditions already. What would be the difference in one condition over another?
Yeah, I guess the main
I just don't know the
issue
answer.
for you to
And it's
address
construction
is.
material. The fence versus stating what type of material would be the issue.
And I know in a conditional use case, we could absolutely do that. Now, whether it's in a zoning, just a rezoning, I'm not sure.
And I'd have to look into that before giving an opinion on it. Just don't know the answer.
Well, I know you're not, you're not necessarily, if the decision's made tonight for a rezoning, you're not bound to this plan, I understand that. But by looking at this plan, Mr. Guyton, it looks to me that the biggest impact is likely to be on this side as opposed to this side. Is that a fair assessment based on your understanding of your property?
The alley there would be, that would be shining headlights right up into me.
Whereas here, you got elevation change, it looks like where you may be, and that picture's taken from, in this
I
general.
was standing right there on that corner, so.
That was on the corner, this
Yeah,
one's on the corner.
yeah. So you see the property flagging right there. I took that picture from here at an angle like that. So if our grade is lower, because we're going to be on the backside of that ridge, we shouldn't really have any light shining into your windows. It would be hitting, it'd be cresting the roof. Because our grade's going to be lower than this picture was taken where I'm standing. We got to cut that down.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. I'd like to add the following condition. Add that on the northern and the northeastern and the northeastern, the Guyton property and the northern property along the Pleasant Acres and the property line along the Guyton property include a privacy screen to be between 7 and 8 feet in height.
Motion has been made. Are you making a motion for approval and to add the condition, or are you just making
Yes.
a motion to add the condition?
Yes.
All right. Motion has been made by Alderman Walker to approve of the rezoning request from R1 to R3 made by Jeremy Tabor with the conditions as recommended by P&Z, and adding the following condition requiring
Requiring a privacy screen to be on average height of between 7 and 8 feet.
requiring a privacy screen to be on average height between 7 and 8 feet along the northern boundary adjacent to Pleasant Acres and along the boundary of the Guyton property. Alderman Walker, is that your motion?
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen.
May I ask this question?
Yes, so let's get into discussion first.
Okay.
Alderman Walker, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No.
All right, now the city attorney would like to ask a series of questions to assure that it meets the threshold for rezoning.
Question is the motion based on the finding of fact that the neighborhood has changed to such an extent to justify the proposed rezoning, and there is a public need for the proposed rezoning?
Yes.
Do you have any further questions?
No further questions.
Discussion, Alderman Carver.
For Alderman Walker, what exactly, or I guess, do you envision as a privacy screen? Is that a chain link fence with a green structure in the middle of it that you can't see through, or what is that?
I would say that it would be a screen that's going to not allow at least 85% of impermanence, so you can't see through it.
Is a wooden fence count for
And that's
that?
why, look, I mean, my suggestion was going to be masonry, and it seems like we may or may not be able to do that, so we don't know. I think when you're seeing things that are out on the street, the other projects, the Annabella, the Bella Grove, I mean, that looks nice, right across the street from Maison de Ville. I think that would be what I would shoot for. But at the same time, I think the most important thing here is that whatever we do needs to be, if it's a wood fence, it's got to be something that is going to be maintained over time, so we don't have a screen for 5 years and then we have a fallen down wood fence that's not being maintained.
The
I think.
homeowners association would be responsible for maintaining, so you would have a governing body, since it's not an individual home.
And that's a great point. And here's a question that I have for you, stand-in city attorney, is that the homeowner association rules and regulations, how does the city, it's been told that we will have absolutely nothing that we can do with the homeowner association rules.
My best judgment would be that's right. That would be up to the homeowners to enforce.
So that is not up to the city. We can't enforce homeowners association rules.
Unless they're adopted by the city in some process. I think somebody may
Now, so that was the intent of that being put in as a condition but that's the first that I've heard of that, and I would like a legal opinion on that.
Well, I'd have to look into it to give you a legal opinion, but that's basically a private contract between the homeowners that the city, in my judgment, would have no basis to enforce.
I think the point that was made earlier was in reference to covenants, and I think the distinction the staff was probably trying to draw there is typically covenants are a private property right, and the staff was attempting to bootstrap those covenants into a city policy, giving the city an officially adopted policy to at least have an argument that those covenants are enforceable by the city. But city attorney might advise us that that's probably a pretty murky area of the law.
But as to a private contract, I think it'd be fairly clear that the city would be able to. Well, that's basically what the homeowners enter into is a contract to agree to these conditions.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, if I might, can I amend that condition? Maybe this one, Mr. Alderman Carver, can I amend that condition, the last one, to say that the privacy screen can have no more than 20% transparency?
Okay. So the condition would be amended without objection to be to require a privacy screen in average height of between 7 and 8 feet with that will allow no more than 20.
How about with a maximum of 20% transparency?
With a maximum of 20% transparency to be located on the northern boundary of the property adjacent to Pleasant Acres and on the boundary of the property adjacent to the Guyton property. Alderman Walker, is that your amended motion as stated?
Yes.
All right, the motion is now, the original motion is property of the board, so I'll ask if there's any objection prior to it being amended. Alderman Walker has asked to amend his own motion without objection. I'm going to allow him to do it. Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, Alderman Walker's motion stands as amended and stated. Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. By a vote of 6 in favor with 1 against, this motion passes. The next matter you have before you is a request for approval of the Michael and Gail Cracker rezoning. Motion has been made by, was that Alderman Maynard? Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve of the Michael and Gail Cracker rezoning of 2.1 plus or minus acres from R1C1 to B1 as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter you have before you is a request for approval of the claims docket. Motion has been made by Alderman Little to approve of the City of Starkville claims docket for all departments, including the Starkville Electric Department, as of July 2nd, 2015, for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2015. Alderman Little, is that your motion? Do I hear a second? Second. Motion has been seconded by Alderman Maynard. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits? No, sir. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Saying none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Nay. With 6 in favor and 1 against, this motion passes. That concludes the open session portion of the agenda. Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to go into closed session to determine whether there is a need for an executive session. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. I would ask the public to vacate the premises while the board goes into closed session to determine whether an executive session is needed.